You're listening to the Everything Jewish 10 Minutes at a Time podcast, where you'll learn about every Jewish topic imaginable in about 10 minutes. And as always, I apologize for all of my Hebrew pronunciation. I know I'm going to pronounce Hebrew words wrong, so instead of getting annoyed, I give you permission to laugh at how I say things. Today's topic is an overview of Jewish denominations. If you've ever walked down a street with multiple synagogues and wondered, why so many? This episode is for you. Judaism isn't a one-size-fits-all religion. It's more like an app store with multiple versions. Some free, some premium, all claiming to be the authentic download of tradition. Let's dive into the different movements, why they exist, and what makes each unique. Let's start with Orthodox Judaism, the movement most committed to maintaining traditional Jewish law and practice, known as halakha. Think of it like the original operating system that doesn't accept updates lightly. Within Orthodoxy, there's diversity. Modern Orthodox Jews often balance strict halakhic observance with participation in modern society, like coding in an ancient language but still using a smartphone. On the other end, you've got Haredi, sometimes called ultra-Orthodox communities, who emphasize insularity and deep adherence to tradition. Picture a world where the Torah is not just the rule book, but the Wi-Fi password for life, essential and all-controlling. In Orthodoxy, rabbis hold high authority, synagogue services are traditional, and gender roles are generally distinct. It's continuity and stability as the highest value. Next up is conservative Judaism, though in some countries it's called Masorti. Don't let the name fool you. It doesn't mean politically conservative. It emerged in the 19th century as a kind of middle path between strict orthodoxy and more liberal approaches. Think of it as Judaism's hybrid car, rooted in tradition but open to innovation. Conservative Jews maintain that Jewish law is binding but also evolving, allowing for careful change through rabbinic interpretation. So while services often still use Hebrew and follow traditional structures, you'll also see innovations like mixed-gender seating and female rabbis. It tries to keep one foot firmly in the past while stepping into the present, like a person who wears tzitzit under a business suit. The emphasis is on preserving tradition while still adapting, a balancing act that appeals to many modern Jews. Now let's talk about Reform Judaism, the most liberal of the major denominations. Born in 19th century Germany and spreading widely in America, it's Judaism's customizable settings option. Reform Jews emphasize individual choice, personal spirituality, and ethical values over strict ritual observance. In a Reform synagogue, you'll likely hear English alongside Hebrew, enjoy mixed choirs, and see both men and women, and sometimes even non-Jews participating in new ways. Rituals are often shortened or modernized, focusing on meaning rather than obligation. It's like saying, I love the playlist, but I'm going to rearrange the songs. Reform Judaism emphasizes tikkun olam, repairing the world, so social justice often takes center stage. While traditional practices are respected, they're not enforced. For many, this makes Reform Judaism approachable, inclusive, and relevant to contemporary life. Another branch is Reconstructionist Judaism, which you can think of as Judaism's build-your-own-adventure game. Founded by Rabbi Mordecai Kaplan in the 20th century, it views Judaism less as a set of divine commandments and more as an evolving religious civilization. That means rituals, prayers, and traditions are valued for their cultural and community significance, not necessarily because they were commanded at Sinai. A Reconstructionist synagogue might experiment with new liturgy, inclusive language, and democratic decision-making. The idea is that the Jewish people collectively shape Judaism as it grows. If Orthodoxy is a fixed OS and Reform is an editable playlist, Reconstructionism is open-source software, constantly evolving with community input. It emphasizes belonging and identity just as much as belief or observance. Humanistic Judaism takes this idea even further. Started in the 1960s by Rabbi Sherwin Wine, it's for Jews who identify culturally but not necessarily theistically. If Judaism were a family reunion, humanistic Jews are the cousins who don't believe in the host but still love the food, stories, and traditions. Services often leave out references to God, focusing instead on Jewish history, culture, and ethical values. Holidays are celebrated with a focus on their human and historical meaning, rather than divine command. It's like celebrating Passover as both a story of liberation and a reminder of universal struggles for freedom, without invoking miracles. Humanistic Judaism provides a space where secular or agnostic Jews can still engage deeply with Jewish identity, heritage, and community without feeling out of place. Of course, not every Jew fits neatly into these boxes. Many communities describe themselves as post-denominational or trans-denominational, blending practices from multiple streams. You might attend a synagogue where the liturgy feels traditional, but the rabbi preaches in a very progressive way. Some Jews float between movements over their lifetime, finding what fits in different stages, kind of like switching from Android to iPhone to Linux depending on the year. In Israel, these categories play out differently. Orthodoxy dominates public life, while Reform and conservative communities are smaller but growing. In America, pluralism is the name of the game, and denominational identities often intersect with cultural, political, and even geographic differences. The Jewish denominational landscape is dynamic, and like Judaism itself, it keeps evolving. We should also note that denominational divisions are relatively modern, emerging mainly in the past 200 years. Before then, there were certainly differences in practice and philosophy, Sephardic versus Ashkenazi traditions, rationalist versus mystic rabbis. But the idea of formal movements came later, influenced by Enlightenment, emancipation, and modernization. In some ways, Jewish denominations mirror broader societal trends: tradition versus innovation, authority versus autonomy, community versus individual. And yet, despite all these differences, Jews across the spectrum still read the Torah, celebrate the holidays, and argue, sometimes passionately, about what it all means. That ongoing argument is itself a unifying Jewish experience. If you're debating whether your cousin's synagogue is too this or not enough that, congratulations. You're living the Jewish tradition. So why do denominations matter? For some, they're like brand labels, signaling what you'll get when you walk into a synagogue. For others, they're less important than the local community, the rabbi's personality, or even the kiddush snacks after services. But understanding denominations helps explain the wide spectrum of Jewish life today, from ultra-Orthodox enclaves to Reform megatemples, from Reconstructionist innovation labs to humanistic cultural centers. Each offers a different way to live out Jewish identity. They're not just theological choices, but lifestyle options, shaping everything from prayer to education to social action. And sometimes the differences are less about belief and more about style. It's like choosing whether you want your bagel plain, with lox, or gluten-free. It's all still recognizably Jewish. At the end of the day, denominations show the incredible diversity within Judaism. Whether you're drawn to strict halakhic observance, ethical universalism, cultural expression, or something in between, there's a place for you. Judaism's strength has always been its adaptability, arguing, evolving, and reshaping while still holding on to core identity. So, next time someone says, "Wait, you're Jewish, but what kind?" you'll have a whole toolkit of answers. And who knows? You might even find that your Jewish journey spans multiple movements over time. That flexibility, that openness to argument and interpretation is very Jewish. Because if there's one thing Jews across all denominations agree on, it's that we don't all have to agree. And maybe that's the best unifying principle of all.